Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Rough, Tam McManus and Charlie Adam here with me on today's show. Lots to talk about. We'll also throw in some Champions League, looking at last night's game and looking ahead to tonight's fixture. And of course, we'll discuss with Roughie how the old Jags get on last night and his view of whether they can get out of that league into the Championship. And of course, all the stories that have been doing the rounds today will occupy our thoughts. You can hit the follow button on our Facebook. We'd love you to do that and join the football family. You can share the stream with your pals. And if you're on our YouTube channel, thank you very much for joining us. You can hit the subscribe button, hit the red button, and you're with us. Simple as that. Now, the long-running saga, will he, won't he? I noticed that we, on a regular basis, have quite a bit of banter, Roughie, on our social media around here. Basically, some people saying any news on Eddie Howe. Well, it looks as if it's getting ever closer.
Yeah, it certainly does. I thought because everything had went really, really quiet, it was getting closer because there was no names coming out of the hat. There was no names getting thrown about in the media, and that sort of led me to believe that they had already resigned to there was something happening behind the scenes, and they were getting on with it because it's a massive job, as we know. So I think a lot of Celtic supporters will be hoping that he's actually working behind the scenes and getting things back on track, because it's a big, big job and eventually steps through that door.
Yeah, it's never in my mind, Tam, been something that I think they've been overly worried about. I've been consistent on the basis that I think they knew early on who they wanted. They would have had discussions with them and gone about their business in a professional manner. I had no sense of panic from within Celtic Park.
No, I think he's the man they want, Peter. I think that's pretty clear now that Celtic want Eddie Howe to be the next Celtic manager. But these things take time. You've got assistant managers to get in. You know how much money's he got to spend, his salary, his backroom staff. So there's a lot to sort out. But there's no doubt for me that I don't think there's any panic at Celtic at all. And Eddie Howe will be the next Celtic manager. But the fans are desperate. They want him in now, which is understandable. But this season's finished. It's finished for Celtic, and if it takes its time, then as long as they get Eddie Howe in, then I think that'll be a really good bit of business for Celtic.
Yeah, and in a strange sort of way, it's been incredibly quiet. Once the writing was on the wall and there was nothing left to play for, you would have thought, Charlie, they might have gone through a situation of at least informing the majority of their supporters, but there's been absolutely nothing. Not even a murmur when the European Super League was being discussed.
No, I just think they've tried to just keep it relaxed and listen. We Dermot as well, that he'll have had that sewn up a few weeks ago, and it's probably just taking its time. As in, we don't know what Eddie Howe's situation was with the Bournemouth contract and things like that, and just different scenarios. And it looks like they're going to go with Eddie Howe. It's a big gamble. It's the biggest club he'll probably manage, and it's going to be one that he'll have to get right, because if he doesn't, it could backfire quickly, and then all of a sudden you could be chasing around, looking for another manager within 6 months, a year's time. So it's important that he takes his time. He gets a background feeling what the club's all about, the players that he wants to bring in, who he's going to sign and who he's going to let go, and go from there and get his feet right under the table. It's a massive season for Celtic and Rangers next season, because whoever wins the league will get into the Champions League, and that'll be a huge bonus as well.
Yeah, I think, strangely enough, Tam, I think if it's a manager who comes in who doesn't know Scottish football, I agree with Charlie. It is a gamble on that basis. A lot of people I speak to are suggesting, that I think he'll come in and want to, get his own style, and I think his style will appeal to Celtic fans. But it is a gamble. I always think in a two-horse race, which this country more often than not is, that he will need to be backed substantially, and I think he wanted, maybe you can understand why he wanted Richard Hughes to get his own man, to get his own calibre of player in. That's going to be key, because as the way football evolves, Tam, and it changes who's deciding what players are coming in and the coach just has to coach them. Celtic got that woefully wrong over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think Celtic manager is obviously a massive appointment, but I think probably as big or even bigger is who they bring in as the head of recruitment or general manager. Because as you said, the game's revolved now. It's not just managers who go out and sign players. It's the director of football, it's the head of recruitment who recommend these players and sign them, and the coach goes and works with them. So I think it's two big appointments for Celtic. It's not just the manager. It's who comes in as that guy who's a scout, head of recruitment, who's going to be bringing players in, because Celtic, as you said, got it horrendously wrong, I think, over the last couple of seasons, and Rangers have got it right with Ross Wilson. So that's also a huge appointment. The two roles that Celtic have to fill are massive, and as I said, they've got to be looking to do it pretty soon. Season tickets, ready round the corner, ready to be sold, and they want to sell out Celtic Park as soon as possible if they can.
Yeah, Andrew Davison says Steven Gerrard was a gamble and that worked out just fine. Yeah, I mean, that's the key to this one, though, Roughie, I think, which is slightly different, is he will come in if, in the next week or two, he will come in with his own team. Something that I think, rather unfairly, Neil Lennon wasn't able to do for one reason or another that only Celtic can come up with.
No, I think you've got to have your own team. You've got to have people you've been with for a while, people who are not frightened to throw their tuppence worth in and have a view in how you're playing and who you're going to play and that kind of thing. I think these are the things that would have to be ironed out. But I think as far as the Celtic supporters are, it'll be when he starts bringing players in, what is the calibre of these players that are coming in? How much are they spending on these players that are coming in? Is it a different kind of player than what they've had? He's going to have money to play with if we think that Edouard's going and Sham's going and maybe Aya's going. So there's a fair bit of money there to play with, but it'll be interesting to see whether they do go out and spend it or just sort of try and nitpick, players that Steven Gerrard did from the lower leagues of England to come up and strengthen the side. So I think the first 2 or 3 signings that he identifies and come in will be a judge of where we're going and how kind of football he's going to be playing.
Yeah, and of course, Charlie, the one thing that's evident, not only from the rumours, but I think it doesn't take anyone any great difficulty in joining the dots on the players that want to go. There's talk of Aya, Norwich linked with them today, Edouard, and of course Ryan Christie as well is another man that's grabbing the headlines. These guys, I think, will be looking to move on. Celtic will be looking to cash in, especially on Christie, because he's in the last year of his deal.
Yeah, I think the cycle of this group of players, I think, is going to dismantle really. I think they've done brilliant for the football club over the years, winning the trophies and trebles and things like that. But sometimes it just needs a new manager to come in and dismantle that sort of thing. Somebody like a Scott Brown leaving is a big hole, and it needs somebody like maybe Callum McGregor to step up and take that responsibility. It's Ayer going to Norwich. It's a far from grace from being linked with AC Milan to end up at Norwich. So it's a worry for them. I think they'll just have to try and maximise the value they can for each player and get as much money as they can for each individual, and he'll have a pot of money to spend. And then it'll be up to Eddie Howe and his recruitment team to bring in the best players possible.
Yeah, he's not away to he's not away to Norwich, Charlie. He's just one of a number of them.
No, I know he's been linked there, but he was linked.
Yeah.
He was linked to AC Milan in the January window. So now to be linked with Norwich, there's what does that say? That his performances have not been to the level that, because AC Milan's a bigger club than Norwich.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm not going to criticize. I mean, listen, if somebody phones and asks about somebody, then it's a great story. I understand the way my fellow compatriots work in the written press. But it'll be interesting to see where he does end up. One of the things that I did read this morning, and again, sometimes you have to treat them with a pinch of salt. Somebody was saying that Callum McGregor could easily fill the shoes as the captain of Celtic from Scott Brown. What a totally different player. And I think they're going to have to go and find a Scott Brown somewhere, Tam. I don't know where they're going to find him, but Callum McGregor's not the man to fill his shoes.
I don't know, Peter. I think he could be. I think that they're obviously different players. I think that Scott Brown probably more vocal on the pitch. I think Callum McGregor leads by example by his performances. I think Callum's had not a great season, but I think when you look at the amount of games he's played over the last 2 or 3 seasons, I don't think there's anybody in Europe who's played more games. So maybe he just needs a rest. He's not going to get it this summer with the Euros. So he's played a lot of football, but I think that Callum McGregor is a very, very good player, and I think that he knows the club. He's a winner. He's been part of that, very, very successful team that Brendan Rodgers built, and I can see him filling these Scott Brown shoes. I think they're big, big shoes to fill, but I think you get a guy like that already at the club, used to success, good footballer. I think he can do it, Peter. So I disagree with you there.
Yeah, okay. Don't worry about disagreeing. That's the nature of the game. We all disagree with each other from time to time. Doesn't affect our friendship. Don't agree with him, Roughie. I think I agree with him. He's a different player, and I think Callum's one of the most consistent players.
Yeah,
but he's not tenacious, noise up, fighting captain material. I like my captain of any club to have a wee bit of nastiness about them. That's why I liked Souness at Liverpool. You always knew what you were going to get with him. He's going to. Not only could he play football, but he could mix it up a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with Tam, disagreeing with you. So I think he's. I think he's a totally different player for Scott Brown. I think
absolutely.
If you get Callum McGregor, I don't think he's a sitting midfielder. I think you get more out of McGregor making runs in the channels, getting run about the 18-yard line. I think that's been taken away from him. I do agree with Tam that he's played far too many games. I think you noticed that when he came back for the Scotland games, that he looked a wee bit out of sorts. So, no, I think he's still got a lot to offer, and I think we would all agree he is a future captain. There's no doubt about that. But he's not the same. He's never the same kind of player as Scott Brown. And I don't think he ever.
How much would it cost? How much would it cost to replace Scott Brown? But if you're looking for that type of player, have Celtic got the money to replace Scott Brown?
$1.5 million from Hibs just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I mean, look what Steve Davis does for Rangers. Look what Davis does for Rangers. He never cost anything.
There's nobody in Scotland. There's nobody in Scotland that would come in the cheap that you can think that can replace him with.
Well, I know this is slightly controversial. I'm not suggesting he's coming in to be a captain, but they made a blunder. And there's no point in going back over it. They made a blunder in not getting John McGinn. But if I was looking at the recruitment of the best of somebody in Scotland that I thought could come in and do a really good job, Charlie, and could mix it up a bit, I would go out and get Lewis Ferguson. I've been consistent about that for the last year. I would go out and buy him. I don't care about some people who don't like the fact that his two brothers played for Rangers. I would go out and get him. I think he's the type of player I like. Just a wee bit about him.
Yeah, no, it's been mentioned, and I've heard Derek talking about it as well. That and Barry said that it doesn't matter. These go out the window. It's the boy's career, and if it was Celtic to come in for him, then fair play to him. I don't think that would matter, but. It's going to be difficult for Celtic. Like you say, Tam, it's going to cost, if you want somebody in that mould of Scott Brown, it's going to cost you between, £4-6 million to at least try and attract somebody that's good enough to replace Scott Brown. So they're going to have to find a gem from somewhere. Is Sorrow the answer? I don't think he is. So we'll see where they go. But that's where your recruitment comes in. You have to get that right. And listen, Eddie Howe's got a big job on his hand if he does get in the hot seat.
Yeah. And lots of people have got their opinion on it. Listen, it's just what we think at the moment. And Michael Edmonds has just said Paul McStay was a great player, but as a captain, he really couldn't fill Roy Aitken's boots. And I think that's quite a good way to look at it. It's two different styles of players. Roy Aitken was quite happy to mix it, ferocious, tenacious. McStay tended to be one of those captains, Roughie, who led by example. I mean, he didn't go about shouting all across the park. I mean, he just usually took the ball, beat three players, and then hit a 30-yarder in behind the defence.
No, Roy was your typical captain, your typical leader. Everybody responded, ran about him. He was the one that drove everybody on, same as Scott Brown did. That wasn't Paul's Paul's remit. You know, he was to show the silky football and waltzing by people and just being a totally wonderful player. And I was going to say to Charlie's been down in England a lot, and we know that Steven Gerrard's identified a lot of players for the lower leagues down in England. Do you think that that is where Howe would go? Would he have the ability to tap into that market and get the same kind of player that he's identified, or maybe a better player?
No, I think the market in the Championship, you know, there's a lot of young players that you can get in the Championship or below in League Ones, League Two. There's players there that you can, but it's taking a gamble. You know, it's taking the risk. Do you think it's all right? Yeah, can he play like a Celtic player? Yes, but has he got the mentality to be a Celtic player? That's a different question. 60,000 hounding you when you get given a pass away. So it's a different type of player. You've got to do your homework on these types of players. So no, I think he'll definitely go into the English market. He doesn't really go into the foreign market. He signed one or two foreign players at Bournemouth, but in general it was a core of sort of British type players that he had there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him go back into the Championship and League One to try and get some players.
This weekend could be quite interesting, Tam, because there is a feeling now that the clubs are going to try and make a stand against the social media abuse. Some of the people who go on and constantly abuse people, racist abuse, it can become a cesspit for people to air their views that really shouldn't be given a platform to air their views. So the SPFL clubs are going to join the English football in a social media boycott. This is 4 days of unity together. What's your thoughts on it, Tam?
Hopefully it lasts longer than the Rangers one. That's my first thought. My other thoughts are, I think it's totally correct. I think that when you look at the abuse that players are getting, coaches, managers on social media, it's been an absolute disgrace for many, many years. And we spoke about it in this show constantly. You know, it's not good enough. And the only way that these social media companies are going to back down and clamp down on it is if clubs and players stop going onto social media, stop giving them the clicks and the hits, and start boycotting it and really, really taking it seriously. And I think that's what's going to happen this weekend. As you said, the clubs are all joining together to do this, and it's not before time because it's totally unacceptable. Players at Celtic, Rangers, players at all clubs, you know, even players in the lower leagues getting subjected to racist taunts and sectarian taunts, no good enough. And something has to be done about it. And if all the clubs club together and do it, I think that'll be fantastic, and it'll certainly make your Facebooks and your Twitters and your Instagrams all sit up and take notice that enough's enough, and the clubs are just not having it anymore.
Well, I commend the clubs. I disagree with you on just a slight thing, Tam, and I'm going to get Charlie and Roughie's thoughts on this as well, but I just disagree with you on one little technicality on this. You know, BT Sport, Talk Sport have also joined in, English football, Scottish football. They want urgent action, including blocking offensive posts, improved verification, and prosecution for offenders. Now, I don't think it's going to make a blind bit of difference. I think 4 days of what I think is a commendable move by the clubs is fine, but it won't register with these people. It just will not register. The only way to counter it is government legislation which forces these companies, the social media companies, to actually have to abide by the law. If you allow the social media companies to govern themselves on this, it doesn't get anywhere. It will be one fudge after another. It needs legislation, not only in this country, but other countries, to actually force the issue. If you want to go on a platform and abuse people, then you'll pay the consequences. And the only way to do that is by registering your name and your face. You only have to look at some of the mentions and messages that happens on our Facebook and especially on YouTube, where people can just blindly say anything they want and they can get away with it for the moment. But I don't think anything's going to happen unless you get some kind of law in place, Roughie.
Yeah, I think we've been hard on that. I think we've been, constant that it's got to be the government that take the authority to punish the the people that's making the money out of it. They're the ones that have got to be put into line to say, look, this is what you're going to do to stop these things that are happening. They're the only people who want to run it through the whatever you run it through to legalise these things and get it done as quick as possible. But as you know, I'm old school. I don't do social media, and if I did do social media and somebody was giving me pelters or somebody was saying something about me or my family or whatever, I just wouldn't do it. I just turn it off. I just don't understand how people constantly are on it and constantly taking abuse. Why don't they just switch it off and don't take part in it?
Well, why should you? Why the answer to that,
I know what
Charlie, is
you're going to say.
what?
Why should they do that because of other people? But all I'm saying
Yeah.
is, if you're getting that kind of abuse and it's really, really affecting you, as we've seen it is affecting a lot of people, just cut off it for a while. Don't let them give you the vehicle to abuse you.
No, but the point here, Roughie, is twofold. One, why should they be deprived of something that does have a positive effect? It's part of the social conscience now, I think, of society, that people like to go on social media, Charlie. So Ruffy knows that I'm saying, why should they be punished? But I also think as well, Charlie, that you have to actually suffer the consequences of breaking the law and actually abusing people. That has to have a consequence.
Yeah, I've been listening over the last few days on radio stations, things like that. I don't think this will make a difference. Like, I'm all for what you said, Peter. I don't think it will make a difference. There'll be some idiots come Tuesday, Wednesday. If somebody misses a penalty, like, that was the first thing I thought when Tavernier and Roof missed a penalty the other night. What are they going to be getting on social media? I don't think this blackout for 4 days is going to... Yeah, listen, it makes a story. It'll make a public stance, but the idiots out there are still going to be out there, and it'll still won't stop them until we, like you said, make a prosecution and then these governments set the law. Then nothing will make a difference. It's as a football, we are trying to get together and make a stance, but they're all still out there, and until you start prosecuting people, then it's always going to be there, and it's just a shame that that's the world we're living in at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Aberdeen. Now, I've watched them lose to Dundee United, Tam, and they were abysmal. I mean, if anything, there's a Stonewall clear out coming up there. But I'm looking at one of the players that this morning I thought they were linked with, and if they got him, I think it would be a good move. Jamie McGrath. I've been well impressed with him at St Mirren. I think he's a really good technical player, good skillful player as well. I don't know if you're a fan, Tam. I've watched him at close quarters in the stand. He played well against Celtic as well. Likes a good pass, can score a goal, can score a penalty as well.
No, listen, I think he's a talented player. I think he's definitely on the radar of Stephen Kenny in Ireland, which is great for him. But does he have to move on from St Mirren to maybe get into the international squad, possibly? I was down at the game Monday at Kilmarnock. I thought he was excellent. He had a good game. I thought he played a little bit deeper than usual. He usually plays further forward, and I think once Kilmarnock were ahead in the second half and Jim pushed him forward a little bit, he was more effective. Great ball in for Shaughnessy's goal. And obviously showed great courage and bottle to stick the penalty away in the last minute extra time and then scored in the shootout. So I think he's a very clever player, and St Mirren, somebody that St Mirren will be wanting to hang on to. I read Jim Goodwin saying that he's the best player he'd ever worked with in terms of a player. So Goodwin rates him highly. He's on the radar of international scene. So St Mirren will be wanting to keep him, but it doesn't surprise me that bigger clubs, no disrespect, Aberdeen and maybe clubs down south will be having a little look at him to see if they can bring him in. But I think it'll take a big fee for him to shift him out of St Mirren.
Yeah, is he a player you like, Charlie?
Yeah, no, I think he's done really well for them. Let's say good midfielder to score the goals, and let's say you can play as well as you can, and you can pass it nicely. But once you start adding goals and assists to your game, that's when clubs start to recognise what's going on. So if it is Aberdeen, then it won't just be Aberdeen that are looking at him. It's St Mirren in a good position. Like you say, they'll demand a decent fee for him, and if they can get the right money, it'll be up to the boy to make the right decision. But to go from St Mirren to Aberdeen, it'll be be a good move. But obviously, if there is a club down in England looking at him as well, that'd be an interesting one for him.
Yep, money talks. I don't think there's any doubt about that, Roughie.
The mercenary McManus has alluded to let everybody know that he's now scouting.
Yes.
He's wee bit,
No, he did it the other day there, Roughie.
Scouting?
He's doing everything.
He's doing everything now. He'll do. He does his podcast. He'll scout for Ireland. Is that right? Is it Ireland, Tam?
Yeah, I was doing a bit of scouting for Ireland to look at Jimmy McGrath for Stephen Kenny.
Mate, out of Ireland. Was it because you must have think about 10 pints of Guinness on a Christmas party or something?
No. Listen, I know. Obviously, know Stephen Kenny well. He signed me a couple of times, and I'm still keeping in touch with him. I ring him all the time. Actually,
good.
So he just asked me to go along and have a look at McGrath for him. I know he's on the radar for Ireland. So hopefully the boy gets a wee call up in the summer. You never know.
Yeah,
Tam gets a backhander.
Well, absolutely. This is the thing. Well, allegedly.
What's that? 5 minutes to get a man in the squad.
Yeah. What about your cooking show, Tam? When does that start? Is that next Tuesday? Tam cooks.
Honestly, can I tell Roughie anything? Honestly, just fix his tongue in it.
Absolutely. He's a sweetie wife. We can't keep a secret. Anyway, apart from anything else, good luck to you, Tam. You're doing well. Still coaching as well, which I think a lot of people, I know Charlie will become a coach, possibly a manager one day as well. But from your own point of view, you're coaching the kids as part of the SFA program as well, which I think is great because you're giving something back.
Yeah, listen, I love that as well. I'm down there a couple of days a week in at Bradhurst in the performance school, and listen, if I can tell any Scotland fans, the future's very, very bright. We have got a great batch of young players coming through, and I think all of them have got a good attitude as well towards the game and on and off the pitch. Things are improving. It's not the iron brew and fish suppers diet now. It's slowly starting to sink in that these guys have got to be professional off the pitch and eat well and look after themselves. So, honestly, I think that maybe in the next 3, 4, 5 years, we'll be strong in at national level.
Yeah, I love your sentiment. I hate to be in Roughie's camp about this one, but I love the fact you go, it's not all iron brew and chips now. But I have to say, Roughie, Kenny Dalglish liked iron brew and chips and square sausage, and boy, could he play.
Yeah, square sausage. I always came to a Scotland game and a butcher appeared with £2 a square sausage to take down the sausages. And a wee bit of black pudding as well. So never hampered them at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Tam, I get your point though. I just want them to be skillful, Tam. I don't want them to be coached constantly pass. It's about players showing their technical ability. It's great.
I would never do that anyway, Peter.
Yeah.
I would never coach out them. Just go and let them express themselves.
Yep. And Charlie, you won't be aware of this, but the big match, it looks as if it could be organised for next Wednesday. McManus's 5-a-side All-Star Select against the PLZ Soccer team. So it looks as if the game's on.
You're not getting him to play, you? You say there won't be ringers.
Well, no, there won't be any ringers. I think we're going to try and get it round about maybe 7 o'clock, Charlie. Is that good enough for you?
If it's possible, I might pop down if I'm not playing in the playoffs. I might pop around the playoffs for that night.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point, Charlie. Right. We might need to think about that. But, McManus has got his boys together. Roughie, it's game on now. There's the bragging rights.
What night is it again? What night?
It's a Wednesday night, Roughie. Does that affect your mixed doubles tennis?
Yeah, no, I'm okay Wednesday night, but I'm quite happy you've got Big Rab Douglas there in your team. Fill the goal for you.
Can you imagine Tam's face? Big Rab.
That
would be sensational. And by the way, if I asked him to come out of retirement, he would. The big man, he's an absolute top man. Anyway,
so you could have a fantastic PLZ team with all the players we've had on the show. You could have an unbelievable team.
When I think of the pundits, with Charlie there, Maisie, Tam, yourself as a goalie, and the number 6, he who shall not be mentioned, Jacko, brilliant, beat the World Cup as well. Gordon Smith was a great player, Roughie. I think a lot of people, forget Smudger was a fantastic player as well. And of course, let's not forget the man who could chase an empty bag on a windy day, Maka. Magnificent.
Yeah, it depends what
Maka
the fee
brilliant.
is for that.
No, but don't knock Maka
we'll,
by. He's my pal.
We'll get Tam done for you after game entertainment.
Yes, absolutely. He can do the commentary on it. I don't think anybody would argue. Interestingly, Tam, I know there was Declan Gallagher possibly being linked away from Motherwell to Aberdeen as well. Declan Gallagher's a good player. I actually think Aberdeen, I don't know, the back. I mean, I think Andrew Considine has been a brilliant servant, but they need to start looking. They need to. By the way, Peter Waters says, "Why don't you like Barry?" He's been my pal for 30 years. It's a wind up on the show. Honestly, don't build it into nothing. It's the 2 weeks before when he kissed the badge, Tam, and said he'd never leave us, and then he left 2 weeks later. We give him pelters for it. But, no, we'll never say a bad word against the Bazmeister. It's as simple as that. We did take his strip off the wall, though, but other than that, he's fine. Declan Gallagher, I think...
Hang out order pin in the toilet.
Roughie, you'd actually be amazed. He's got 2 strips up on this wall here. So he's not. He's gone but not forgotten, to be perfectly honest with you. Thanks, Peter, for highlighting that. But yep, Baz was good for us. Declan Gallagher, Tam, I think Aberdeen need a clear out. I think they need a wee bit about them in the back line. They need to start thinking and adopting the attitude that Rangers adopted, which was, try and shut up the shop, try and not give away these daft goals, and maybe be a little bit more, entertaining, a bit more flair, Tam, as well, which Stephen Glass will hopefully, bring into that side.
Yeah, I think that Declan Gallagher will have plenty of options. I think he's done really well for Motherwell. He's in the Scotland squad. He's done really well in the playoff games. I think he's 28 now, so I think this is probably his last chance to get a decent move, a big move. COVID's maybe put the mockers on a decent move to England, so he'd maybe be looking up here, Aberdeen, Hibs, teams of that calibre who can maybe pay him decent money and get a 3 or 4 year deal. I think he would enhance Aberdeen and Hibs. I think he's a player, so I agree. I think if Stephen Glass wants to play the way I know he wants to play at Aberdeen, then you've got to be strong at the back. If you're going to be, your fullbacks are going to be flooding forward and you're going to be very attacking, you've got to have a strong defensive partnership. So I think that Declan Gallagher will be on the radar, not only of Aberdeen, but possibly of Hibs as well.
Yeah. Interesting. Hey, throwaway line there. Thought we wouldn't notice that there, Roughie. There's a wee snip there. There's a snip from the scout. The scout has mentioned Hibs are also interested.
I know.
Come on.
Might lose Porteous, so I think Gallagher could be a good replacement.
Hold on a minute to write that down as well. Porteous is on his way.
I think any of the three of them, innit? Hibs, Aberdeen, and Hearts. I think Hearts might look at him as well in the summer.
Yep. Absolutely.
I think that's probably where he probably. I think he'll stay in Scotland. I don't think he'll have, like you say, the COVID might have kiboshed the move to England. But I think he'd be better than what Aberdeen have got at the moment at centre back.
Charlie, there's talk yesterday, and I'm going to come on to, we're going to hear from Callum Davison in a minute, but there was talk yesterday of the additional 3, we discussed it on last night's show, the additional 3 players that will be in the squad for Scotland. It's now going to 26. Are there 3 players in your mind that you would like? No.
I've got 3, but it wouldn't be any St Johnstone players. Patterson be in there, Gilmore would be in there, and I would have a sniff at somebody like a Ryan Gauld or something like that.
Turnbull's got to go.
I'm not sure about Turnbull.
Turnbull or Gauld?
Sure. I think
Ryan Gould's
Turnbull
playing second division Portuguese football.
No,
I'm a big fan.
He's in the main league. He's in the main league. He's in the main league in Portugal.
Yeah, he scored 8 goals this season, but for the majority of it, he's been playing second division Portuguese football. And this season
I understand that, but the form he's in, I think Turnbull come to Celtic, done really well for a period, and then realised that his form's dipped a little bit for me. So I think it's a big decision. I think it's good for the lads that maybe not thinking they might be involved, but now all of a sudden the next 3 places they've got a chance there. So I definitely have Patterson, I definitely have Gilmore in there.
I'm a Ryan Gayle fan.
Striker?
Well, listen, Griffiths is in the 23. I think Griffiths is in because we don't have a different style of player. Well, I think he will be, but that's the argument. I think Griffiths is in the 23, and I think the 3 additional players, I don't think you'd look too far away. Personally, I'd like to see, I like a Gold because I think he's got something. I'd love to see him back in Scottish football. I hope a Scottish club signs Ryan Gauld and brings him back to Scottish football. I'd really love to see how he's developed in Portuguese football over to here. Will he get the call for Scotland? I'm not so sure. I think it will be a Nisbet, a Turnbull and another. I'm not even sure, Roughie, that Steve Clarke will look at Billy Gilmore.
Well, I think somebody should have been looking at what he's doing now. I think he's got to have a wide range of scouts. I know he's no phone Tam, or Tam would have told us. But he'll have somebody, they're looking at all these players, and then he'll have to come up with a decision. I think the striking one is a big one. I think we're now relying on 2 strikers, and anything can happen in the games that one of them's going to fall out. I can't pick Lee Griffiths if he's only playing 15 minutes of football from now to the end of the season. It's a big gamble. If everybody's saying he's not fit enough to play. If he's not fit enough to play league football, he's not fit enough to play European football.
I don't think he'd been the squad, Griffiths.
No, and I go along with he can come on and do something special, but that's not a guarantee either. Not when you go into a level of that kind of football that you're playing. So for me, I don't think he's Steve Clarke's kind of guy. I don't think that he fits the bill. We keep talking about this Scotland team as a club side, and they all get on well with each other. And I just think for some unknown reason, Lee Griffiths doesn't fit into that bill, which is a shame because I think he has got a lot of ability when he's 100%.
Do you pick 4 strikers?
Well, at least Dykes is scoring goals again.
Yeah,
Shea Adams going to get in. Dykes is scoring goals again, which is good. That's your 2. But I think you need to have a variation, and you need to have someone who's got something that can change a game. It could be, listen, we are not a country that's going to go and take the game to the Czech Republic and have the majority of possession. It may well be that we start to look to set pieces, as we often do. So it might be that he has something to offer at a specific point in the game. It might be that option to try and either get us back into it or get us ahead. I just don't think we have enough of the quality to suddenly think this guy can come on and change a game. This guy can come on and offer something different from the one guy that's just gone off. That's why I think he's in.
Would James Forrest be in the squad?
I'd love James Forrest to be in the squad. I think James Forrest offers Scotland again something different. But the problem I've got with this whole scenario is, am I a Griffiths fan based on the last couple of years? No, I think he's wasted his talent at Celtic. I think there is a boy who can score goals, but his attitude professionally has let him down. And I know he's got his problems and everybody's documented them, but as a footballer who's paid a weekly contract to play football and score goals, I think he's let Celtic down over the last couple of years. Because of the dearth of talent we have at Scotland, I think he might be a serious option. I think Steve Clarke will pick him. You don't, Tam. Fine, we'll wait and see. But I don't think we've got a lot of options, Charlie.
No, but I don't see us playing... I'll definitely. It's going to be difficult. It is difficult. But if I'm looking based on what this season, I don't think you can go with what the past has gone. Griffiths has done well enough for Scotland, couple of goals against England. But on this season's form and what he's given, I don't think he could be in the squad. So it's a big decision for Steve. But no, I don't think if he was in good form or he was at least playing games, then I think he'd be involved. But I think Steve will want to be going to a camp or the European Championships with a clear head, clear-minded players that are fighting for a place. He'll not be wanting fully fit. He'll not want any different sideshows. So I don't think he'll be picked.
Well, we'll wait and see what options he decides to go for. As far as the goalkeeping positions, I mean, we've got three really good goalkeepers, Marshall, Craig Gordon, John McLaughlin, but Callum Davison was talking today about Xander Clark.
Yeah, without a doubt he is. I think with Xander, it was probably when first he broke through at St John's, it was consistency. I think now he's producing those type of performances. He's consistent. He's good with the ball at his feet. So he ticks a lot of boxes. He's a great size as well, a great presence in the box. So for me, he ticks a lot of boxes. It's just about him playing well in the big games and showing the mental side of the game, which for me he's done.
Could he be a third striker?
Roger. It's not a bad shout, Tam. Roughie, I think unfortunately for Xander Clark, we've got three good goalies.
Who's your third one?
John McLaughlin.
Well, that's why I think St Johnstone have got a case. I'm not saying John McLaughlin isn't a good goalkeeper. He's not playing any football. I don't know how many games he's played this year. He hasn't let Rangers down any time he's come in. I mean, he is a quality goalkeeper. When you're a goalkeeper and you're playing week in, week out, and you're producing the form that the St Johnstone boys doing, maybe he might just get a wee shout. McLaughlin's been in all the squads, so it'd be a disappointment for him if he was left out. But I think Xander Clark thought he was going to get in the last time because he was playing so well when he picked McLaughlin. So it's a difficult one. I just think you've got to be playing. You've got to be playing week in, week out to justify getting picked for the national side. And that's why we're obviously having a wee bit of doubt about Griffiths because he's not playing regularly. And I would say the same about the third goalkeeper. The first goalkeeper is another shout. I think Craig Gordon will definitely think now, obviously with Marshall having some injuries, that he is the number one, and that'll be an interesting shout, who gets that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm absolutely gutted. I'm gutted, Charlie, that McGregor's hung up his gloves.
I said before, I said in the show, I think Steve should have just phoned them up straight away and said, listen, you three are going to be the goalkeeper. I need you in the squad, and you're going to be my number one, because his performances at 39 years of age has just been phenomenal. And, listen, in England, it's happened. They've brought players back that you would never have thought that had been in the squad and things like that. So when there's somebody like that available, can you give us it for the summer? An opportunity to go to European Champion. I don't think McGregor would turn it down if he was asked.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I'm looking at Ron Gordon, the Hibs chief executive. Tam, he wants to put together a task force to try and get, with consultants and executives from right across the SPFL to try and come up with ideas to boost the finances for the clubs over the summer. They obviously want to try and get a major sponsor in for the league and then distribute more money to help the clubs.
Can't be a bad thing, Peter, can it? We've been shouting about that in this show for a long time. Lachlan Cameron, another American, came on with some great ideas. Last year in the lockdown, we thought he was a great guest to have on. He had some really different ideas, and it all comes from a US background. And I read today that Ron's looking at the NBA and the ice hockey and the NFL just to see what they do in terms of marketing. And Ron Gordon's background is media and marketing, so he knows what he's talking about. He knows how to raise funds, get sponsors, and I think that can only be a good thing. To get everybody around the table and say, listen, how can we maximise the revenue here in Scottish football? I think we've got a really, really good product. We've got a real honesty about our game in Scotland, which other countries don't have. The fans love it here. So I think we've got to be doing better than Neil Doncaster has been doing with the SPFL in terms of attracting sponsors and attracting money to the game. So, no, I think it's great for Ron Gordon. He knows what he's talking about. So hopefully that's something that can really bear fruit in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Apart from anything else, business heads are needed. If I was giving them one bit of advice, Charlie, to try and turn things around to attract sponsors, I would suggest to them that collectively they got the clubs all in a big room around a table and then brought in an American from the NBA or the NFL and instructed them on how to deal with everybody in the public and the press, PR-wise. I think that's the biggest problem this country has. They've got a viewpoint which is absolutely negative to promoting the game. They view most members of the press as the enemy. They do not go out of their way to help people, and I'm talking about major investors in Scottish football. I'm talking broadcasters. I'm talking written press who promote it. I'm talking radio, and I'm talking people who put money in. And we've done it before as part of the SPFL sponsorship. They need a lesson on how to promote collectively clubs being accessible to people who are putting huge amounts of money in. The amount of backlash and negativity that comes out of the clubs who are reluctant to help and think that every player should just be doing club TV and answering simple, stupid questions week in, week out is a disaster. They need a lesson on how to promote this game. That's the first thing I would say, Charlie, and then get somebody out there and put the gloss on this and make it appealing to everyone.
Yeah, and I think the leagues have to be bigger as well. I think the Premier League has to become a bigger league as well, and then you have a better product. Listen, it's a good product, but like you say, I don't think we are fighting enough to get the best sponsors. How can you go through a season without having a main sponsor for the main league? It's shambolic, and like you say, we need the right people in there, and all the clubs have to take responsibility themselves. But it'll come down to the old firm want most of the pie, and the rest will have to split it. So it's going to be difficult, but it's important that if we can, we get everybody around the table, we talk about it, and everybody has a fair share and a fair crack at it, and we move forward, because it is a good product. Like Tam said, it's an honest game. It's, you just look at the cup games that have been the quarterfinals and penalties and things like that, extra time. They've been great games, and hopefully we can find a sponsor that wants to promote the game, because I don't think we promote it well enough.
Yeah, I know I'm on my high horse about this, in the soapbox, Roughie, but I don't care. I mean, there are a lot of players with great personalities that the fans want to get in touch with. They want to know more about them. They want to be able to connect with them. They want to be able to hear them speak. And more often than not, it's a grind to get a player to speak. And by the way, the hypocrisy is not lost on them. I know players who wouldn't speak to the press for 10, 15 years, but are quite happy to take the money now as a pundit.
Yeah, I think me and Tam would be more aware of that, having been in America,
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah,
Charlie, I'll tell you right now.
It's unbelievable.
Charlie Adam at St Mirren, Charlie Adam at Rangers, Charlie Adam at Liverpool, never changed as a person. He would actually be out there putting himself out to an interview, because he knows. Yes, by all means, educate people. By all means, give them PR training and media training. I'm not against that, but let them speak. Get them out there promoting it. We've got some great footballers with brilliant personalities. We want to hear from them. And I'm talking about every club. Get them out there. We want to hear from them.
Yeah. As I was saying there, I suppose me and Tam have noticed it in America. Being in America, I was over there for a year, and that is the first thing you learn. You have to be media friendly. You're put out everywhere. You're put on radio shows. You're meeting the sponsors. You're meeting the fans. You're meeting the away fans. I know sometimes you're taking it a bit far, but that's what it's all about. It's all about contact with the people that you're trying to entertain. And a lot of them aren't particularly knowledgeable, but a lot of them are. But you're available. You're available before the game. You're available even walking off the park at half time. You're available at the end of the game, whether you get beat 4-0 or whatever. You win. And that's the way they're brought up. They're brought up that way, that you're media friendly and you act responsibly for the benefit of your club.
Yeah.
And just, as you say, it just doesn't happen here.
No, absolutely not. Can I ask Roughie can you give me your thoughts on this? What about the debacle that happened between Clyde and East Fife? 30 minutes before the game, somebody's test eventually is revealed to everybody as positive, which prompts obviously East Fife to look at this. And it's an incredible situation. Players were being asked, do they want to play and take the risk of playing when you've got families, wives who some are pregnant. It's a real risk. This is the comment from Darren Young on the whole situation, what they were subjected to, and the game was postponed eventually. After last night's events at Broadwood, I feel it's right to clear up a decision not to play and put our staff and players at unnecessary risk. A member of the Clyde team received a positive COVID result, with the result only coming back 30 minutes before the start of last night's game. We only found this out as we took to the field. By this point, the player had already been in the changing room, done the warm-up and mixed with other players. He had also travelled up and down on the bus to Peterhead. We were asked if we wanted to play. To my knowledge, the joint response group weren't consulted, unlike what is said in a certain statement. I consulted the players and the chairman, and straight away it was a complete no. I find it scandalous we were put in a position and asked if we were willing to take the risk. I will always back my players, especially when it comes to a situation where their health and well-being are put on the line. And just in, the SPFL have opened disciplinary proceedings against East Fife for failing to fulfil their fixture against Clyde last night. Wow. Yeah. What a twist.
Shambolic.
What a twist. The East Fife should take the SPFL to court, Roughie.
Yeah, the SPFL are a joke, man. We've discussed it on numerous occasions that they go by the rule book. They go what's in that rule book. They don't differ from it. They don't show any common sense whatsoever. And it is absolutely scandalous. I don't suppose I should be telling you this, but Partick Thistle have asked for the league to be scrapped, and we should be promoted in a points per game ratio. I don't know if that'll work. It's quite a hard one to decide. Probably have to go to a vote, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's another
joke,
WhatsApp group for another day.
I know that. By the way.
I know that. I knew it was a joke. It was just the delay with the other two to see what they were going to say. Tam, I'm gobsmacked.
Yeah, it's a joke. As the guys are saying, it's your health's your wealth. You can't go out in a pitch if somebody's had COVID. Some of the guys have got pregnant wives. I'm friends with Dan. I spoke to him about it, and some of these, they might have time off work. They might need to take time off work. They've got elderly parents, grandparents, kids. No chance. And East Fife have got nothing to play for anyway. I know Clyde have probably got something to play for, but East Fife have got nothing to play for as it was. So they made the right decision, and if they get punished with the SPFL for that, then it is a complete farce.
I think that's a shambles, Charlie. I really do. I cannot believe that statement has just come out.
Are we surprised? Are we surprised that the SPFL are doing this? It's unbelievable. As a manager, you want your manager to stand up and vote, stick by your players. He's done that. I read it this morning at training, and I thought, fair play to him. There's no many would have done it, and fair play to Dan Young for that. But like you say, these lads, for what they're earning part time and that, they're going to have to take maybe 10 or 12 days off their work to isolate and whatever. It costs them money. Livelihoods, they've got mortgages and bills to pay. I think they've done the right thing, and to now be punished, definitely we have to have a look at the situation, and I hope all the clubs can get round it together and sort this out, because it's not good enough.
Imagine Peter taking it to a ridiculous scenario. I mean, this is a ridiculous scenario that we're playing Montrose next week to decide who wins the league, and we're at the game, and we all of a sudden say one of our players have got COVID. And Montrose say, no, we're not playing you. And we get the 3 points and we're promoted. That just shows how stupid it is.
Yeah, well, if it was me... Yeah, well, exactly. Well, you guys, what are you on about? You guys can get promoted if you defeat Falkirk, Roughie.
Yeah, I would like to think that we're on a decent run. We've only been beaten 3 times this year. We've only been beaten once at home. So you would like to think the players have got... an incentive.
You weren't saying that 6 weeks ago, were you?
Oh, absolutely, Charlie. Get it till you're right. I wasn't saying that 6 weeks ago.
That's what happens when you go a 10
He's switching.
He's got that touch of arrogance about him. Eh? The arrogance.
Absolutely. I never
sticking by your manager.
Yeah, I never slept last night, and I'll not sleep tonight. Even though I'm not playing, I know what can happen in football. I'm not getting carried away. because there's a lot of pressure on everybody hitting that park tomorrow night. So I think that's the only thing is the pressure, and hopefully we can stand up to it, because that's what it's going to boil down to for the three teams that are left.
Did you sleep before the Brazil game in '82?
Didn't look like it.
I slept
with who? Big Sheila from Rio.
And I remember saying, exactly. "Oh, I've got a game tomorrow."
Anyway, apart from anything else, a couple of things I want to mention before we go. Stephen Dobbie has announced his last game against Dundee. Charlie, Dobbs has been on this show on more than a few occasions. I just think he's a brilliant lad. He's a great footballer. He's a great example to someone who turned around his whole, ethos and training and, goal scorer magic.
Brilliant. Obviously, when I started at Rangers, he was in the, in the reserve team at the time, and then obviously being able to get promoted with him at Blackpool and then playing against him now. So it'll be great to see him on Friday night. His first game was for Queen of the South was against Dundee, and his last game will be against Dundee. So it's a great way for him to finish. He's been a great servant in that club, and he deserves it. I'll just need to see if he's going to go again next season. I know that I think his family are still down in Lytham, and he's been living up here a little bit in that. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes again. But if not, what a career and what a guy he is. He's he's a great guy and a great teammate when we were at Blackpool.
Yeah, he's a brilliant lad, and obviously he sent me a text today saying he's going to weigh up his options, see what he's going to do if he's maybe got another year in him. So we wait and wish him the very best. This is what he had to say on the difficult decision, which is, it's with a heavy heart that I'm announcing my time at Queen's has come to an end, and that this Friday will sadly be my last appearance in a Queen's shirt. I've loved every minute of my 7.5 years. I made my debut against Dundee, so it's fitting. My last appearance will be against them. My first ever goal for the club came against Dundee, so fingers crossed, history will repeat itself, and my last will be on Friday night too. There have been many highlights during my time. My statue at the arena, being inducted into the Hall of Fame, becoming the club's second top goal scorer, and beating the record for most goals in a season. But the biggest honour for me has to be becoming club captain. Queen's isn't just another football club to me. I've become a supporter myself. The way in which the club and the fans have embraced me and my family will always hold a special place in my heart. Now that is what football is all about. And dare I say it, was he not in that photograph of 5 young, hopeful hibbies on Albion Street in Edinburgh all those years ago, Tam?
Yeah, he was, Dobbs. He was in that picture, and I can only echo what Charlie said there. Fantastic guy. He turned his career around because Dobbs was very, very close to going out the game completely. His attitude and his diet and everything. He was going to flush his talent down the pan, but he got a grip of himself when he went to Dumbarton. I think Jerry McCabe's got to take a bit of credit for that as well, and he got his move to Queen's, and then from there, from Queen's, he's been an absolute revelation. I loved watching him down there playing in Charlie's Blackpool team, playing with Swansea. He was a standout, scored a lot of goals in England, and came back up with Queen's. And as you said, I think he's a terrific player, terrific guy, and hopefully he's got another year in him. Maybe not Queen's, but somewhere else. But no, I wish him all the best. Great lad.
Yeah, absolutely.
You never know where he might pop up.
No, the Jags.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
I know Collie loves him.
This is just one exclusive after another. Yeah. There it is.
No,
that's why he's bring this man up.
I know Alan Johnson's still in a job down there, but he's a ready-made manager. He's got to be the manager there sometime. With his association with it's got to be.
Yeah, you're right.
Eventually.
Listen, we're running out of time. I've just got to say, here's David Moyes on being voted London Manager of the Year.
It's a real surprise, but it's something which I'm really proud of. I thought the team this season has done a great job. I have a wonderful staff. I've had a great group of players this season who've performed really well. Certainly from lockdown coming back, the players have done a great job. There's been big improvements, so it's probably why I'm standing here today, because of how well my players have done and my staff have done, who've helped me greatly throughout the season. I'd like to thank all the people who were involved in the voting and decided to choose a Scotsman here in London. in a city which has got so many great football clubs and got so many top football managers involved at their clubs.
Yeah, it was an easy decision, Charlie, wasn't it? Davy Moyes, Scott living in London, West Ham. What a season!
That sunshine's done well for him as well, isn't it? We red face.
Exactly.
But no, listen, I think he's been tremendous for having the hits of losing Man United and things like that, but bouncing back and getting West Ham where they are at the moment, we're having an opportunity with a few games to go still to get in the Champions League. It's a great credit to him. And listen, I would love to see them get the opportunity in the Champions League because it's a big club that can spend money as well, and they've got a good group of players, but thoroughly deserved, and hopefully they can nick that Champions League spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers
Peter,
crossed for him.
Peter, you'll remember the interview we did with him at Hampden when he was at the game, and he was so positive that he kept on saying, "Look, I'll be back. I don't know when I'll be back, but I'll be back." And he had the confidence in his own ability to get back to the top, which the interview was absolutely incredible, how positive he was after the disappointments that he'd had.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, having been, many years ago outside a nightclub in Preston thinking how we're going to go home, Davey said, "Don't worry, we'll get a taxi." Really positive, Roughie. I thought we were going to have to walk home, but no. He's always been a positive lad. He's been absolutely magnificent. What a team West Ham this season. Brilliant. Alec Kelly has come up with a great line. He says, well, Davy Moyes, London Manager of the Year. Does that mean Steven Gerrard is Glasgow Manager of the Year, Pedro? Well, who are we to argue, Alec? I'm going to give you the last word on that. Absolutely. He's the Glasgow Manager of the Year, as well as, is he going to be Manager of the Year if Callum Davison wins the double? Charlie, is he going to be Manager of the Year if Callum Davison wins the double?
No chance.
I think it'd be very difficult to be here. I think what Callum's done has been phenomenal. If that. Yeah. Win the Scottish Cup, I don't think they will.
Trophies. Wow.
Hey?
I'm going to go for the Highbies.
Just been in Perth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go for the Highbies. The Highbies are going to win it.
Oh,
yes.
You jinxed him again. He's not happy. Everybody calling the Highbies. Listen, just before we go, Roughie, I think it's going to be PSG 2, Manchester City 1 tonight. What do you think?
I'm going to go 3-0 PSG. That forward line. They're absolutely magnificent.
He's on the gym.
I'll use one of Tam's words. They're staunch.
Are you on the whiskey?
Staunch has got nothing to do with it.
I know.
Charlie. It's just a good word. It's a good word.
A great word. It's a good word for the city of Glasgow. Charlie, give us a score.
I think I'm going to go 2-2.
Oh, 2-2 with City winning the second leg, no doubt. Tam?
Yeah, I think City.
I think it'll be tight. I'm going to go for 0-0.
What? 0-0? What? 0-0 with three of the best strikers in the planet on the pitch.
You do it every week.
Comfortable 0-0. I'm going to go comfortable 0-0.
Yeah, Desmond 2-2. Okay, I'm happy with that. Anyway, listen, great patter, great chat from the people who were on social media. As I am lucky enough to say this on a regular basis on this programme, 99% of the people love their club, love a bit of banter, love backing their club on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. And we love the fact that you come to the show and support us in great numbers. And hopefully you'll hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button from Roughie, from Charlie Adam, and also Tam McManus. Charlie won't be with us on Friday because it's I think the final games of the season. So good luck, Charlie, on Friday, and give my best wishes to Stephen Dobbie if you can. Thanks to Charlie, thanks to Tam, Roughie, and from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks to you for watching. Good night.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.